The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. Jedi meditate upon it. Sith bend it to their will. Prophets speak of balance and chosen ones. But what happens when something tears through the fabric of reality? Something forged in pain, bound by rage, and utterly beyond the Force's reach? On the cursed world of Dathomir, where red mists coil through twisted forests and the Night Sisters weave their dark magics, the sky split open with a sound like durasteel tearing. No hyperspace signature, no ship approaching through the atmosphere, just a wound in space itself, crackling with energy that made the Force scream in protest. And through that wound fell a man. He hit the ground like a meteor, cratering the rust-colored earth in an explosion of dust and shattered stone. The impact would have killed any ordinary being instantly, shattered every bone, pulverized organs into paste. But Logan wasn't ordinary. He never had been. He lay in the smoking crater, body broken, ribs punctured through his lungs, skull fractured. And then, with wet, horrible sounds, his body began to repair itself. Bones snapped back into alignment, torn flesh knitted together. Within seconds, his eyes opened, wild, yellow, and filled with animal confusion. "Where the hell?" His voice was gravel and rage. Logan pulled himself from the crater, adamantium claws sliding from between his knuckles with their familiar snikt. The sound was a comfort, a constant in whatever nightmare this had become. One moment he'd been strapped to a table in a Weapon X facility, scientists pumping God knows what into his veins. The next, reality itself had torn apart, and he'd been sucked through a howling void of impossible colors and screaming dimensions. The forest around him was wrong. Trees twisted like arthritic fingers, their bark the color of dried blood. Bioluminescent fungi pulsed with sickly green light. The air tasted of copper and something else, something that made his enhanced senses scream warnings he didn't understand. Movement in the shadows. Logan's head snapped toward the sound, nostrils flaring. His healing factor was working overtime, still repairing damage from the dimensional jump, but his senses were sharp enough. 7 figures, moving with predatory grace through the mist. Their scent was humanoid, but wrong. Tainted with something chemical, something unnatural. They emerged from the tree line, Night Brothers, crimson-skinned warriors with ritual tattoos covering their bodies. They carried crude weapons, spears, blades, clubs, but moved with the confidence of trained killers. Behind them, a figure in dark robes, face hidden beneath a hood. Logan could smell the strange energy radiating from her, making his teeth ache. The robed figure spoke in a language Logan didn't recognize, her voice carrying harmonic undertones that shouldn't be physically possible. She raised one pale hand, and green fire erupted in her palm, actual fire, burning without fuel, responding to her will like a trained animal. "Lady," Logan growled, claws extending to their full length. "I don't know what kind of circus this is, but I'm not in the mood." The Night Sister, Mother Talzin's lesser acolyte, studied him with eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. She sensed his rage, tasted the violence in his aura. But when she reached out with her magic, seeking to probe his mind and bend his will, she found nothing. No connection to the Force, no threads to pull. He was a void wrapped in adamantium and fury. She hissed something that sounded like a curse. The Night Brothers attacked. The first warrior thrust his spear at Logan's chest. Logan caught the shaft mid-strike, snapped it like kindling, and drove his claws through the warrior's abdomen. The Night Brother's eyes went wide with shock as Logan lifted him off the ground and threw him into 2 of his companions. The fight erupted into chaos. Logan moved like something feral and unstoppable, ducking under a club swing, his claws opening the attacker's throat in a spray of crimson. A blade scraped across his back, cutting through his tattered Weapon X uniform and drawing blood. But the wound closed before the warrior could strike again. Logan spun, caught the man's wrist, and twisted until bone cracked. The Night Sister screamed words of power, and green lightning crackled from her fingers. It caught Logan in the chest, and for the first time since arriving, he felt real pain. Not the clean pain of blades and broken bones, but something that burned from the inside, something that tried to unravel him at a molecular level. Logan roared, a sound more animal than man, and charged directly into the lightning. His healing factor couldn't fully compensate for the mystical energy, but it kept him moving, kept him alive. He covered the distance to the Night Sister in 3 powerful strides and drove his claws toward her face. She teleported, actually vanished in a swirl of green smoke, and reappeared 10 meters away, breathing hard, fear finally showing in her glowing eyes. The remaining Night Brothers retreated, dragging their wounded. The Night Sister pointed one trembling finger at Logan and spoke a single word in Basic that he could understand. Abomination. Then she was gone, vanishing into the mist with her warriors. Logan stood alone in the clearing, surrounded by alien bodies, and his own blood soaking into crimson soil. His chest heaved, adrenaline still flooding his system. The wounds from the strange green lightning were taking longer to heal than they should, leaving angry red marks across his torso that slowly, grudgingly faded. He retracted his claws and looked up at the sky. 2 moons hung there, neither one familiar. Stars arranged in constellations he'd never seen. Whatever that portal had been, wherever those Weapon X bastards had sent him, this wasn't Earth. This wasn't even his universe. Perfect, Logan muttered, his voice bitter with dark humor. Just perfect. In the distance, through the twisted forest, he could see lights, some kind of settlement or temple. Where there were people, there would be answers, and maybe, just maybe, a way home. Logan started walking, his enhanced senses alert for any other surprises this nightmare world wanted to throw at him. Behind him, his blood on the Dathomir soil began to glow faintly with an energy that had nothing to do with the Force, something the galaxy had never encountered before, something that would change everything. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. 3 weeks later, Darth Maul returned to his homeworld. The Sith apprentice moved through Dathomir's crimson forests like a shadow-given form, his yellow eyes scanning the familiar terrain with predatory focus. Lord Sidious had sent him here on reconnaissance. Rumors of Republic scouts probing the Outer Rim, whispers of separatist interest in Night Sister magic, routine matters that insulted Maul's capabilities, but he obeyed. A Sith apprentice always obeyed. The scent hit him first, blood still relatively fresh, mixed with something foreign, something that made his skin prickle with instinctive unease. Maul approached the Night Sister Temple with practiced silence, Force presence suppressed to nothing. The temple carved into the mountainside glowed with sickly green light, its entrance flanked by statues of ancient demons. But something was wrong. The usual chorus of chanting was absent. No guards patrolled the perimeter. The entire structure felt disrupted. Inside, he found Mother Talzin's acolyte sister, Karis, kneeling before a small altar. She turned at his approach, her pale face marked with fresh ritual scars. "Maul," she breathed, relief and fear warring in her voice. "You return at an auspicious time. The spirits have sent us a sign, or a curse. Speak plainly, witch." Maul's patience for mystical dramatics had worn thin years ago. Karis gestured to the altar. On it lay fragments of metal, twisted, scored by energy weapons, but fundamentally undamaged. Beside them, dried blood samples in ritual bowls. 3 weeks passed, something fell from the sky. Not a ship, not a meteor, a man. He slaughtered 6 Night Brothers and survived Mother Zara's lightning. His blood, It refuses to corrupt. It heals itself, even separated from his body. Maul picked up one of the metal fragments. It was unnaturally heavy, far denser than durasteel. Claw marks scored the temple floor nearby, 3 parallel gouges cut deep into solid stone. Where is this creature now? Gone, into the wilds. Some of the younger warriors have been tracking him, but... She hesitated. He cannot be sensed through the Force, Lord Maul. He is a void, an absence. When we reach for him with our magics, there is... nothing. Interesting. Maul had encountered Force null species before, the Yuuzhan Vong in ancient texts, certain silicon-based life forms, but never a humanoid, and never one that could survive a Night Sister's lightning and regenerate from mortal wounds. I will find him, Maul said simply. The trail was easy enough to follow for someone of Maul's abilities. Broken branches, disturbed earth, the lingering scent of something distinctly non-Dathomiri. The creature, the man, had been living in the wilderness, hunting the local fauna, avoiding the Night Sister territories, surviving, adapting. Maul found him at dawn, crouched beside a stream, drinking. Logan's head snapped up the instant Maul entered the clearing, water dripping from his beard. His nostrils flared, taking in the Sith's scent, leather, ozone, and something darker. Predator recognizing predator. You're not one of those witches' goons, Logan said, slowly rising to his feet. His eyes tracked Maul's every micro-movement. Different smell, more focused. Maul's hand drifted to his lightsaber hilt. You speak basic. Interesting. What are you, creature? The name's Logan. His claws slid out with that distinctive metallic sound. And I'm the guy who's been trapped on this hellhole for 3 weeks with no way home and a real short temper. You attacked the Night Sisters. You survived their magic. You exist outside the Force itself. Maul began circling, yellow eyes never leaving Logan's form. My master would be very interested in you. Your master can go to hell. I'm not interested in whatever game you're playing. Maul ignited his lightsaber, just one blade, the crimson plasma humming with barely contained energy. You misunderstand. I am not offering a choice. Logan grinned, and there was nothing human in that expression. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. The fight exploded with brutal intensity. Maul struck first, a blindingly fast overhead strike meant to bisect Logan from crown to groin. Logan crossed his claws above his head, catching the lightsaber blade between the adamantium. The plasma sizzled against the indestructible metal, throwing sparks and superheated air, but the claws held. Maul's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of his surprise, before he disengaged and flowed into a spinning strike. Logan ducked under it, felt the heat of the blade pass inches from his scalp, and lunged forward with a wild slash. His claws screamed across Maul's chest plate, scoring deep gouges in the armor, but not penetrating. They separated, circling again. What manner of metal is that? Maul demanded, genuinely curious despite himself. Adamantium. Indestructible, bonded to every bone in my body. Logan spat blood. He'd bitten his tongue in the initial exchange. The wound healed instantly. And before you ask, yeah, it hurt like you wouldn't believe. Maul attacked again, this time incorporating acrobatics, flipping over Logan, striking from unexpected angles, using the Force to enhance his speed to superhuman levels. His lightsaber was a crimson blur, carving through air where Logan had been microseconds before. But Logan's enhanced senses tracked every movement. He could hear Maul's heartbeat, smell the ozone before each Force-enhanced maneuver, feel the vibrations in the ground when Maul landed. The Sith was fast, but Logan had fought faster, had fought gods and monsters and walking nightmares in his century-plus of existence. Logan caught Maul's wrist mid-strike, adamantium grip crushing down on bone. Maul snarled and drove his knee into Logan's ribs with force-enhanced strength. Bones cracked. Logan's grip didn't loosen. He drove his other set of claws toward Maul's exposed throat. Maul released a force push point blank. The kinetic wave caught Logan in the chest and sent him flying backward, crashing through a dead tree and hitting a boulder hard enough to crack the stone. His ribs were already healing, but the impact had driven the air from his lungs. Maul stood ready, lightsaber raised, breathing harder than he'd like to admit. The creature, Logan, pulled himself from the rubble, shaking his head like a stunned animal. Blood covered his face from a scalp wound that sealed itself even as Maul watched. "You cannot be killed," Maul said, statement rather than question. "Not for lack of people trying." Logan's claws gleamed in the dawn light. "But you're not half bad either, Red. That laser sword's a neat trick." For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Two warriors, each recognizing in the other something dangerous and rare. Then, Maul deactivated his lightsaber. "My name is Maul, and I believe my master will want to meet you very much, Logan." The holographic chamber aboard the scimitar hummed with dark energy as Darth Maul knelt before the towering blue projection of his master, Darth Sidious, known to the galaxy as Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, leaned forward in his throne, eyes gleaming with predatory interest beneath his hood. "You are certain of this, my apprentice?" Sidious's voice carried layers of curiosity and calculated menace. "A being that exists completely outside the Force? I fought him myself, Master. My precognition gave me no advantage. When I reached through the Force to anticipate his movements, I found nothing, an absence, yet he possesses regenerative abilities beyond any species I have encountered." Maul's jaw tightened at the memory of their inconclusive battle. "His skeleton is laced with a metal that my lightsaber cannot penetrate." Sidious was silent for a long moment, fingers steepled before his hidden face. In his centuries of studying the Force, manipulating midi-chlorians, orchestrating the grand design that would transform him into Emperor, he had never encountered something truly beyond the Force's reach. Oh, there were Force null zones, Isalamiri that created bubbles of negation, but a sentient being. A warrior who could move and fight and think without leaving so much as a ripple in the cosmic fabric. "Fascinating," Sidious whispered. "Where is this creature now?" "Still on Dathomir. He resists capture, but he is stranded. The Night Sisters fear him. He has no ship, no means of escape." Maul paused. "He claims to be searching for a way home, though he speaks of his world as if it exists beyond this galaxy entirely." "Beyond the galaxy?" Sidious's mind raced through possibilities. Interdimensional travel, ancient hyperspace anomalies, or something else entirely. Something the Jedi, in all their arrogance, had never considered. "This changes much, Lord Maul. Do you understand why?" "A warrior immune to Force persuasion would be a valuable asset." "No!" Sidious's interruption was sharp. "You think too small. Consider the prophecy, my apprentice. The chosen one who will bring balance to the Force. But what if there existed beings who could act without the Force's influence? Who could make choices unconstrained by destiny, unbound by prophecy?" The Sith Lord's smile was audible in his voice. Such a being could shatter fate itself. Maul felt a chill run down his spine. His master's grand plan relied on manipulating the Force, on using the Jedi's own prophecies against them. But something truly outside that system. "You want him captured alive," Maul said. "I want him studied, understood, and if possible, controlled." Sidious leaned back. "But do not underestimate him, my apprentice. If he can regenerate as you describe, conventional containment will prove insufficient. We will need to be creative." "The Separatists have research facilities." "Yes." General Grievous has been requesting new materials for his cybernetic enhancements. Perhaps this Logan can provide what the General seeks. Arrange for a separatist patrol to investigate Dathomir. Make it appear routine. When they encounter him, they will capture him for study. Sidious's tone became contemplative. And once we understand what he is, we will determine what he can become. The hologram flickered out, leaving Maul alone in the darkness of his ship. He stared at the empty space where his master's image had been, mind churning with implications. For years, he had been the perfect weapon, honed by rage, trained in the Sith arts, completely committed to his master's vision. But Logan's existence raised uncomfortable questions. If beings could exist outside the Force, what did that mean for the rule of two? For the grand plan? For everything the Sith had built their philosophy upon? Maul pushed the thoughts aside. Such questions were above his station. He was the apprentice. His role was to obey, to serve, to strike when commanded. Still, as he set course for separatist space, he couldn't shake the memory of Logan's yellow eyes, feral, ancient, and completely unreadable through the Force. Meanwhile, on Dathomir, Logan had finally found something useful. The crashed ship was old, half buried in the crimson earth, and covered in creeping vines. Some kind of transport vessel by the look of it, sleeker than anything from his world, but still recognizable as a spacecraft. The hull was breached in multiple places, obviously beyond repair, but that wasn't what interested Logan. He'd found the Navi computer. It took him 2 days of trial and error to get the damaged computer operational enough to display a basic star chart. When the holographic projection finally flickered to life above the console, Logan stared at it with a mixture of awe and despair. Thousands of systems, millions of stars, and not a single constellation he recognized. "Well, that confirms it," he muttered, scrolling through the data with blood-stained fingers. Not Earth. Not even close. The computer's language was alien, but some kind of translation protocol kicked in after he'd been poking at it long enough. He learned he was on a planet called Dathomir, in something called the Outer Rim Territories. There were references to a galactic republic, a Jedi Order, and something called the Clone Wars currently tearing the galaxy apart. Clone Wars. Great. Because apparently, one war-torn universe wasn't enough. Fate had decided to throw him into another one. Logan was about to shut down the computer when proximity alarms started blaring. His enhanced hearing picked up the sound of approaching engines, multiple craft moving in formation. He crept to the edge of the tree line and looked up. 3 ships descended through Dathomir's atmosphere, sleek and insectoid in design. They bore markings he didn't recognize, a separatist insignia, though he had no way of knowing that. Landing parties deployed immediately, and Logan's blood ran cold when he saw what emerged from the transports. Droids. Dozens of them. Skeletal, mechanical soldiers carrying energy weapons, moving with eerie synchronization. And leading them, something that made even Logan's battle-hardened instincts scream warnings. A tall, hunched figure in a white cloak, coughing wetly, 4 arms carrying 4 lightsabers. General Grievous had arrived. The cyborg general's vocabulator crackled as he addressed his troops in a language Logan didn't understand. But he understood the gestures. Spreading out, search pattern, hunt. They were looking for something. They were looking for him. Logan's claws slid out quietly. He could run, disappear into the wilderness, maybe survive a few more weeks in this alien hell. Or he could do what he'd always done when backed into a corner. Fight. The first battle droid never saw him coming. Logan burst from the tree line at a dead sprint, claws leading, and tore through 3 droids before they could even raise their weapons. Blaster fire erupted around him, bolts of superheated plasma that burned through flesh but couldn't stop his momentum. General Grievous turned toward the commotion, photoreceptors gleaming with predatory interest. "Ah," the cyborg said in accented basic, igniting all 4 lightsabers simultaneously. "The specimen." Logan had fought a lot of things in his century-plus of existence. Super soldiers, sentinels, the Hulk on 3 separate occasions, but he'd never fought anything quite like General Grievous. The cyborg moved with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for something mechanical. 4 lightsabers spinning in a deadly whirlwind of crimson and blue plasma. Logan barely had time to cross his claws defensively before the first strike came, followed by 3 more in rapid succession from completely different angles. Sparks exploded where plasma met adamantium. The impact drove Logan backward, his boots carving trenches in the dirt. The heat was incredible. Lightsabers burned far hotter than anything he'd faced before, hot enough that even his healing factor struggled to cope with the ambient temperature. "Fascinating," Grievous rasped between coughs. "Your skeletal structure resists lightsaber penetration. Count Dooku will be most pleased with this data." Logan didn't waste breath on a response. He feinted left, then dove right, rolling under a horizontal slash that would have bisected him at the waist. His claws raked across Grievous's leg as he passed, scoring deep gouges in the duranium plating, but not severing any critical systems. Battle droids closed in from all sides, blaster fire creating a deadly crossfire. Logan felt bolts sear across his back, burning through his already tattered clothing and scorching flesh. The wounds healed almost instantly, but each hit drained energy, forced his healing factor to work overtime. He grabbed a fallen tree branch, as thick as his thigh, and hurled it at the nearest cluster of droids. The makeshift projectile smashed through 3 of them before embedding itself in a 4th. Logan used the momentary distraction to charge another group, his claws dismantling them with brutal efficiency. Limbs flew, processors sparked, oil sprayed like blood. "Impressive durability," Grievous observed, circling Logan like a predator. "But durability alone will not save you, animal." The cyborg attacked again, this time using his extra arms to devastating effect. 2 lightsabers thrust high while 2 swept low, a combination attack impossible for any organic opponent to execute. Logan twisted, taking a glancing blow to his ribs that burned through muscle down to adamantium bone, and managed to deflect the lower strikes with his claws. The pain was excruciating. The smell of his own burning flesh filled his nostrils. Logan roared, a sound of pure animal rage, and launched himself directly at Grievous. It was a berserker move, abandoning defense entirely, and it caught the cyborg off guard. Logan's claws plunged into Grievous's torso plating, piercing through duranium into the organic components beneath. Grievous shrieked, an electronic screech mixed with wet organic pain, and backhanded Logan with enough force to send him flying 20 meters. Logan crashed through a separatist landing craft's landing gear, metal crumpling around him. When he pulled himself from the wreckage, blood covering his face and torso, Grievous was clutching his damaged chest plate. Green-tinged blood, Kalish blood, leaked from the wound. The cyborg's breathing was even more labored than before, his organic lungs struggling. "You dare!" Grievous coughed, rage overriding his usual calculating demeanor. "I am General Grievous. I have killed hundreds of Jedi. You are nothing but an animal." "Yeah?" Logan spat blood and grinned through the pain. "This animal just gave you a sucking chest wound, Tin Man." More droids emerged from the transports, dozens, then hundreds. They formed a perimeter around Logan, blasters raised. Grievous raised one hand, halting their fire. "Lord Sidious wants you alive," the cyborg said, regaining his composure despite the obvious pain. But he said nothing about undamaged. Capture him, use the neural disruptors. The droids advanced, several carrying strange devices that crackled with blue electrical energy. Logan recognized the threat instantly. some kind of shock weapon. His healing factor could handle conventional damage, but electricity, especially in concentrated doses, could potentially overwhelm even his enhanced nervous system. He charged the nearest group, determined to go down fighting. The first neural disruptor hit him square in the chest. Logan's entire body seized, muscles locking up involuntarily. He managed 3 more steps before a second disruptor caught him from the side, then a third from behind. The combined electrical assault forced him to his knees, teeth clenched so hard he thought they might crack despite the adamantium reinforcement in his jaw. Persistent, Grievous noted, approaching cautiously, but ultimately futile. Through the haze of electrical agony, Logan saw the cyborg raise one lightsaber, aiming for his neck. Even adamantium had vulnerabilities, the spaces between vertebrae, the joints. If Grievous got the right angle, a blue lightsaber intercepted Grievous's blade with a shower of sparks. "General," a calm voice said, "I suggest you reconsider." Logan's vision was blurring from the neural assault, but he could make out 2 figures descending from a Republic gunship that had appeared overhead. One was tall, bearded, wearing robes and carrying a blue lightsaber. The other was younger, shorter hair, blue eyes blazing with controlled intensity. Jedi. "Kenobi," Grievous snarled. "And Skywalker. How fortunate. I can add 2 more lightsabers to my collection today." "You're in Republic space, General," the bearded one, Kenobi, said evenly. "Whatever you're doing here, it ends now." Anakin Skywalker didn't wait for more talking. He launched himself at Grievous with aggressive speed, his fighting style all offense and power. Grievous met him blade for blade, their duel instantly escalating to lethal intensity. Kenobi used the distraction to force-push the droids surrounding Logan, sending them flying in all directions. The neural disruptors deactivated. Logan collapsed forward, gasping, his healing factor immediately working to repair the damage to his nervous system. "Easy now," Kenobi said, kneeling beside him but keeping his lightsaber ready. "We're here to help." "Don't need help," Logan managed to grind out between ragged breaths. "Of course not. You clearly had the situation well in hand." Kenobi's tone was dry but not unkind. He pressed a comlink. "Captain Rex, we need immediate evac. Multiple wounded, hostile forces and, well, I'm not entirely sure what he is." Logan's healing factor was working overtime, repairing nerve damage, regenerating burned tissue, resetting his system. Within 30 seconds, he was able to stand, though his legs shook with the effort. Across the battlefield, Anakin and Grievous were locked in a brutal exchange. The young Jedi was holding his own, but barely. Grievous's four-armed assault was relentless, and Anakin had to rely on the Force to anticipate strikes his eyes couldn't track. "We need to leave," Kenobi said firmly. "Now." Logan looked at the Jedi, then at the battle, then at the hundreds of droids regrouping for another assault. His instinct screamed at him not to trust anyone, especially not in this insane galaxy. But these Jedi had just saved his life, whether he wanted to admit it or not. And more importantly, they had a ship. "Fine," Logan growled, "but I want answers, starting with where the hell I am and how I get home." "That," Kenobi said, igniting his lightsaber as more droids approached, "is a conversation best had elsewhere. Anakin, we're leaving." The Jedi Temple on Coruscant rose above the planet-wide city like a monument to peace and order. Its spires caught the light of the setting sun, casting long shadows across the Senate district. Logan stared at it through the viewport of Kenobi's ship, the negotiator's shuttle, and felt his gut tighten with instinctive suspicion. He'd spent the 3-day journey from Dathomir recovering, eating everything the Republic clones could provide. His healing factor burned through calories like a furnace, and learning the basics of this galaxy through grudging conversation with his rescuers. Galactic Republic, Separatist Alliance, Clone Wars. Jedi peacekeepers with laser swords and magic powers they called the Force. Still can't sense him, Anakin muttered to Kenobi, not quite quietly enough. It's like there's just nothing there. No Force presence at all. "I'm standing right here, kid," Logan said without turning from the viewport. "Enhanced hearing. Might want to remember that." Anakin had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. Kenobi simply smiled, that diplomatic smile Logan was already growing tired of. "Forgive us," the older Jedi said. "It's not often we encounter someone so completely absent from the Force. In fact, in 900 years of recorded Jedi history, I can't recall a single case. Yeah, well, where I come from, people don't have magic powers. We get by just fine without them." Logan finally turned to face them. "Speaking of which, when do I get to talk to someone about getting home?" "The Council will want to speak with you first," Kenobi said carefully. "They'll have questions about your origins, your abilities, your condition." Logan's claws slid out an inch. "My condition?" "Your healing factor," Anakin clarified quickly. "We saw you take a lightsaber to the ribs and walk it off. That's not normal for any species we know. Weapon X made sure of that." Logan retracted the claws. "Military program from my world. They bonded indestructible metal to my entire skeleton, gave me these." He extended one set of claws fully for emphasis. "Thought they were making the perfect soldier. What they made was something they couldn't control." The shuttle descended through Coruscant's endless traffic lanes, past flying vehicles and towering structures that made even Logan's battle-hardened mind struggle to comprehend the scale. Trillions of beings on one planet, thousands of inhabited star systems. It was too big, too vast, and he was so impossibly far from home. The Jedi Temple's landing platform was pristine white stone. Clone troopers in white armor stood at attention as the shuttle touched down. Logan noticed how they held their rifles, not aimed at him, but ready. Soldiers recognizing another soldier, even one from beyond the stars. The council chamber was circular, with 12 seats arranged around the perimeter. Tall windows looked out over the Coruscant skyline. In those seats sat beings Logan couldn't have imagined in his worst nightmares. A small green creature with massive ears, a dark-skinned human with a scarred face, a woman with head tails, others he couldn't even categorize. "Welcome you, we do," the green creature said. His voice was aged but carried undeniable authority. "Master Yoda, I am. Questions we have, many questions." Logan stood in the center of the circle, acutely aware of 12 pairs of eyes studying him like a lab specimen. The feeling was too familiar, too much like Weapon X. His hands clenched into fists. "The feeling's mutual, Shorty. Let's start with the big one. How do I get back to my universe?" The council members exchanged glances. The scarred human, Mace Windu, leaned forward. "Your universe? You claim to be from another dimension entirely." "I don't claim anything. One minute I'm in a facility on Earth, next minute reality tears apart and I'm crashing through your atmosphere." Logan's patience was already wearing thin. "So, yeah, different dimension, different universe, whatever you want to call it. The point is I don't belong here, and I want to go home." A Togruta Jedi with white and blue markings spoke gently. "Master Yoda, I sense great pain in this being, anger, trauma, yet no darkness, no connection to the Force at all." "Impossible, that should be," Yoda said, tapping his gnarled walking stick. "Living beings, all connected to the Force they are. Yet in you, Logan, an absence, as if the Force itself you reject." "Maybe I do," Logan growled. "Or maybe your Force doesn't exist where I'm from. Ever think of that?" "Your abilities," Mace Windu said, changing tack. "Master Kenobi's report indicates you regenerated from mortal wounds in seconds. You possess retractable claws of an unknown metal, enhanced senses, How did you acquire these gifts? Gifts? Logan's laugh was bitter. You want to know the truth? They kidnapped me, experimented on me, pumped my skeleton full of adamantium while I was conscious and screaming. The healing factor's the only reason I survived. So don't call them gifts, Jedi. They're scars. They're chains. The council fell silent. Even Yoda's ancient eyes held something that might have been sympathy. Tests. We must run, Yoda said finally. Understand your condition, we must. Help you return home, we may be able to. Tests. The word came out flat, dangerous. Like the Separatists wanted to run? Like Weapon X ran? Not like that, Anakin interjected quickly from where he stood at the chamber's edge. The Jedi don't experiment on people. We're trying to help. Everyone's trying to help, Logan said. Right up until they're strapping you to a table and seeing what makes you tick. Mace Windu stood, and Logan noticed every muscle in the room tense slightly. Your distrust is noted, Logan, but you must understand our position. You appear from nowhere, possess abilities beyond any known species, exist outside the Force itself, and arrived during the most devastating war in galactic history. The Council must determine whether you pose a threat. A threat? Logan's claws slid out fully, adamantium gleaming in the chamber's soft light. You got no idea what I'm capable of, Jedi. But here's a news flash. I didn't ask to come here. I didn't ask to crash on your witch planet. I didn't ask for your separatists to try to dissect me. All I want is to go home. Lower your weapons, Windu said calmly, hand drifting toward his lightsaber. They're not weapons. They're part of me. Logan retracted the claws slowly. But fine. You want to run your tests? Figure out what I am. I'll play along. But the second I think you're pulling a Weapon X, the second I think you're trying to use me, we're going to have a problem. Yoda closed his eyes, as if listening to something only he could hear. When he opened them, they held an ancient sadness. Agree to this, the Council does. But know this, Logan of Earth, darkness, I sense coming. War, it approaches. And in that war, choose you must, which side to stand with. I don't take sides in other people's wars. No choice you may have. Yoda's ears drooped slightly. For already, noticed you, the Sith have. And what the Sith notice, they seek to possess or destroy. Logan felt ice run down his spine. The red-faced warrior, Maul, had mentioned a master, and if that master was anything like the cyborg general who'd tried to capture him, then I guess I'll deal with that when it comes. Logan turned toward the exit. Where are these tests? Let's get this over with. As he left the council chamber with Kenobi and Anakin flanking him, Logan couldn't shake the feeling of walls closing in. Different galaxy, different war, but somehow it all felt terrifyingly familiar. And deep in the shadows of Coruscant's underworld, a holographic transmission reached Darth Sidious's hidden sanctum. The Jedi had his specimen. But Sidious was patient. The Clone Wars had taught him that sometimes the best way to acquire an asset was to let your enemy train it first. 6 months changed everything. Logan stood on the bridge of a Republic assault ship, watching turbolaser fire light up the void between star systems. The Battle of Ryloth was entering its 3rd hour, and the Separatist blockade was finally beginning to crack. Below, on the planet's surface, clone troopers fought to liberate Twi'lek slaves from droid occupation. Iron Beast, you're clear for drop, Captain Rex's voice crackled through the comm. Package is in the Central Slave Processing Facility. Guard estimates put it at 50 battle droids plus 2 spider droids for security. Logan checked his gear. Republic-issued armor modified to accommodate his claws. Tactical scanner, breaching charges. No blaster. He'd tried using one during training and nearly shot his own foot off. Guns had never been his style anyway. Copy that, Rex. Going dark. He stepped into the drop pod, and seconds later the magnetic clamps released. The pod screamed through Ryloth's atmosphere, heat shields glowing orange, before retro thrusters fired at the last possible moment. Logan hit the ground running, claws already extended. The Jedi Council had been right about one thing. He'd had to choose a side, not because of philosophy or politics, but because of what he'd seen in his first month embedded with Republic forces. Slave camps, civilian massacres, entire populations held hostage by the separatist war machine. The droids didn't care about collateral damage. They followed orders with mechanical precision, no matter how brutal. And if there was one thing Logan hated more than being used as a weapon, it was seeing others treated like property. The slave facility's outer wall crumbled under his assault. Droids turned to engage, blasters firing in synchronized volleys. Logan weaved through the energy bolts with animal grace, his enhanced senses tracking trajectories before they were fired. He crashed into the first rank like a wrecking ball, adamantium claws shearing through thin droid armor like tissue paper. "Intruder alert! Intruder alert!" The mechanical voices overlapped, creating a discordant chorus. Logan didn't slow down. He'd learned droid tactics over months of brutal combat. They were predictable, following programmed responses. Overwhelming force, numerical superiority, crossfire patterns, effective against most opponents, suicidal against someone who regenerated from headshots. The spider droids were different. They emerged from the facility's depths, massive mechanical arachnids bristling with heavy weapons. Their central processors calculated his speed, predicted his movement patterns, and opened fire with devastating accuracy. Logan felt his left arm disintegrate under concentrated blaster cannon fire. The limb fell, still twitching, adamantium bones gleaming white through vaporized flesh. The pain was white-hot agony that would have killed a normal being through shock alone. He kept moving. His right arm carved through the first spider droid's leg joints, collapsing it. His healing factor was already rebuilding his left arm, muscle fibers knitting, skin regenerating, nerves reconnecting. By the time he reached the second spider droid, he had full function back. Both sets of claws punched through its optical sensors, and he rode it down as it toppled, ripping open its central processor housing. The facility's interior was cramped, claustrophobic, perfect for close-quarters combat. Droids couldn't use their ranged advantage here. Logan moved through corridors like a ghost, his enhanced hearing picking up mechanical servos before the droids could ambush him. 30 seconds, 50 droids. None of them survived first contact. He found the prisoners in the lower levels, hundreds of Twi'leks, mostly women and children, chained in cells. They cowered when they saw him, this blood-stained figure in Republic armor with metal claws dripping with oil, and worse. "Easy," Logan said, retracting his claws and raising his hand slowly. "I'm with the Republic. You're going home." One of the children, no more than 8 standard years old, stepped forward. Her leku was still short, innocent. "You're the Iron Beast? Captain Rex told us you were coming." Logan knelt to her eye level, trying to look less intimidating. It didn't work. He never looked less intimidating. "That's what they call me, kid. What's your name?" "Numa." She looked at his armor, at the barely healed wounds still showing through tears in the material. "They said you can't die. Is that true?" "Haven't managed it yet." Logan pulled a breaching charge from his belt and attached it to the cell's locking mechanism. "Cover your ears." The explosion shattered the locks. Within minutes, he had all the cells open and the prisoners moving toward the extraction point. Clone gunships appeared overhead right on schedule, Rex coordinating the evacuation with professional efficiency. "Beast, we've got a problem," Rex called over the comm. Long-range scanners just picked up a separatist cruiser dropping out of hyperspace. ETA 5 minutes. "Then you better move faster, Captain. I'll buy you time." Logan didn't wait for acknowledgement. He sprinted toward the facility's main landing platform where a separatist shuttle was attempting to escape. He leaped onto its wing as it lifted off, claws punching through the hull. The shuttle spun wildly, pilot trying to shake him off. Inside, battle droids struggled to aim as the craft's erratic movements threw them around. Logan tore through the hull, dragged himself into the passenger compartment, and went to work. 20 seconds later, he kicked open the pilot's door and found himself face to face with a confused Neimoidian officer. "Where's the cruiser headed?" Logan growled. I don't." Logan's claws were at the officer's throat. "Wrong answer. Try again." "Sereno! Count Dooku's palace! Please, I'm just a quartermaster." Logan knocked him unconscious with a single calculated strike and took control of the shuttle. He'd learned to pilot Republic craft over the past months. How different could Separatist systems be? Very different, as it turned out. The shuttle lurched drunkenly as Logan fought with unfamiliar controls. Behind him, the Separatist cruiser was launching fighters. In front, the Republic evacuation was still in progress. "Rex, how we looking?" "Last transport is lifting off now." "Beast, you need to bail." "Negative." Logan armed every weapon system the shuttle had. "I'm going to give them something else to shoot at." He angled the shuttle directly at the incoming fighters and pushed the engines to maximum. The Vulture droids opened fire, but Logan was weaving, dodging, using every trick he'd learned from months of combat drops. He wasn't a trained pilot. He was a berserker with a death wish and nothing to lose. 3 Vulture droids went down to his wild firing. 2 more collided trying to track his erratic flight path. The rest broke off pursuit of the Republic transports to focus on this insane shuttle that fought like it was piloted by a madman, which technically it was. "All transports clear," Rex confirmed. "Beast, the cruiser's targeting you. Get out of there." Logan looked at the massive Separatist cruiser, its weapons charging, and grinned. "Been nice knowing you, Rex." He ejected from the shuttle seconds before a turbo laser reduced it to atoms. The vacuum of space hit him like a physical blow. Explosive decompression, instant freezing, 0 oxygen. His healing factor went into overdrive, trying to repair damage faster than space could inflict it. 45 seconds. That's how long a human could survive hard vacuum exposure. Logan made it to 2 minutes before a Republic gunship snagged him with a magnetic grapple and dragged him into the pressurized interior. He lay gasping on the deck, frost covering his skin, eyes bloodshot from burst capillaries. His healing factor slowly restored normal function, pushing frozen blood through his veins, restarting biological processes. Ahsoka Tano knelt beside him, her young face twisted with concern and exasperation. "You're insane. You know that, right?" Logan coughed, tasted copper, managed a weak grin. "Get that a lot, kid. 300 Twi'leks evacuated safely. 0 Republic casualties." She shook her head. "Master Anakin's going to give you another lecture about reckless tactics." Looking forward to it. Order 66 came without warning. Logan was on Felucia, hip-deep in swamp water, hunting a Separatist weapons cache with Ahsoka and 3 clone squads. The planet's massive fungi cast purple shadows across the murky landscape, and the air tasted like rotting vegetation. It was miserable, dangerous work, exactly the kind of mission they'd run dozens of times before. Commander Bly was coordinating with his troops when his helmet comm crackled with the encrypted transmission. Logan's enhanced hearing picked up fragments, a voice he didn't recognize, cold and authoritative. "Execute Order 66. Bly's body language changed instantly. So did every clone in the vicinity. The easy camaraderie, the casual jokes, the brotherhood that Logan had come to respect over months of fighting alongside them. All of it vanished in a heartbeat, replaced by mechanical precision. "Something's wrong," Logan said quietly, claws sliding out. Ahsoka's hand dropped to her lightsabers. "What do you—" The first blaster bolt hit her in the back. She spun, azure blades igniting, deflecting the next 3 shots on pure instinct. Around them, every clone trooper had their weapons raised, firing in synchronized volleys. not at droids, at them. "Bly, what are you doing?" Ahsoka shouted, confusion and betrayal raw in her voice. The clone commander said nothing. His rifle tracked her movements with cold efficiency, as if she were just another target, as if months of fighting together, laughing together, bleeding together meant absolutely nothing. Logan didn't hesitate. He charged the nearest group of clones, using his body as a shield for Ahsoka. Blaster bolts scorched his back, his arms, his legs, burning through flesh that healed almost as fast as it was damaged. The pain was constant, overwhelming, but he'd learned to function through worse. His claws slashed through rifle barrels, not the men holding them. These were good soldiers. They'd saved his life. He'd saved theirs. Whatever was happening, whatever had triggered this, it wasn't their fault. "Logan, we have to move!" Ahsoka grabbed his shoulder, pulling him toward the tree line. An AT-RT walker emerged from the fog, its repeating blaster spinning up. Logan shoved Ahsoka aside as the weapon opened fire, the concentrated barrage shredding the ground where she'd been standing. He felt rounds punch through his abdomen, his chest, his neck, his healing factor working overtime to keep vital organs functional. "Go!" he roared. "I'll hold them." For once, Ahsoka didn't argue. She force-pushed 3 clones into the swamp and ran, her Montrals and Leku streaming behind her. Logan watched her disappear into the fungal forest, then turned back to face an entire company of clone troopers who'd just received orders to kill their Jedi commanders. The AT-RT pilot's vocabulator crackled. "Target acquired. Eliminating Jedi accomplice." "I ain't Jedi," Logan growled, "and you boys just made a big mistake." He launched himself at the walker, claws extended. The pilot tried to track him, but Logan was too fast, too low to the ground. He reached the walker's leg joints and started carving through hydraulics and support struts. The machine toppled sideways, crashing into the swamp. Logan ripped open the cockpit and dragged the pilot out, alive, but unconscious. Blaster fire intensified from all directions. The clones were boxing him in, using tactics he'd helped train them in. Overlapping fields of fire, suppressive volleys, grenades to deny cover. They were treating him like the most dangerous target on the battlefield. They weren't wrong. Logan's healing factor was being pushed to its absolute limit. He'd taken hundreds of blaster hits in the past 5 minutes. His body was a patchwork of burned flesh and exposed adamantium, healing and burning in an endless cycle. But he kept moving, kept fighting, refusing to kill the men he'd called brothers. A thermal detonator landed at his feet. Logan kicked it back toward the clones, then dove into the swamp water as the explosion shattered the silence. Underwater, the blaster fire was muted, and his healing factor got precious seconds to catch up. His lungs screamed for air, but he stayed under, using his enhanced senses to track movement above. When he surfaced 30 meters away, Ahsoka was there, crouched behind a massive mushroom trunk. "What's happening?" she demanded, lightsabers still ignited. Tears streaked her face, from fear, from betrayal, from the impossibility of their situation. "Something in their heads," Logan said, pulling himself from the water. "They all changed at once, like someone flipped a switch." "The clones were designed with behavioral modification chips," Ahsoka said, her voice hollow. "Contingency orders in case the Jedi turned traitor. But we didn't. We would never. Doesn't matter what's true. Matters what they believe." Logan's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of more walkers approaching. Heavy armor, gunships. "They're bringing everything. We need to leave, now." "The other Jedi are probably already dead." Logan hated saying it, but survival meant facing ugly truths. "You can't save them, kid, but we can save you." Ahsoka looked like she'd been stabbed. Her master, Anakin, Master Obi-Wan, Master Yoda, the entire Jedi Order. If this Order 66 was galaxy-wide. "There's a Republic outpost 12 clicks north," Logan said. If we can commandeer a ship, they'll shoot us on sight. Then we steal a separatist ship. Logan grabbed her arm gently. But we move. Now. They ran through the Felucian wilderness, pursued by soldiers who'd been their allies hours ago. Logan took point, his senses navigating through the alien terrain, warning them of ambushes before they materialized. Ahsoka stayed close, deflecting the occasional long-range blaster shot with exhausted precision. 3 hours later, they reached an abandoned CIS supply depot. The droids were deactivated, recent shutdown, probably when the war ended. Because if Order 66 had been executed, if the Jedi were being eliminated, that meant the Separatists had already lost. The war was over, and the Jedi had lost everything. Inside the depot, they found a still-functional Sheathipede-class shuttle. Logan hotwired the systems while Ahsoka kept watch, her young face aged by grief and trauma. "Why didn't they shoot you?" she asked quietly. "Order 66 targeted Jedi. You're not Force-sensitive. Why did they try to kill you too?" Logan paused in his work. "Because I was with you. Because I was protecting you. That made me a threat." He finished the bypass and the shuttle's engines hummed to life. "Get in. We're leaving." "Where?" Ahsoka's voice cracked. "Where do we go when the entire galaxy just turned against us?" Logan didn't have an answer. He'd been asking himself that question since the day he crashed on Dathomir. But now, looking at this traumatized kid who'd helped him control his rage, who'd treated him like a person instead of a weapon, he realized something had changed. He'd found something worth protecting in this galaxy. Someone worth protecting. "Somewhere safe," he said finally. "Somewhere the clones can't track us. And then we figure out who gave that order." His claws extended unconsciously. "And we make them pay." The shuttle lifted off as clone gunships appeared on the horizon. Logan pushed the engines hard, breaking atmosphere before the Republic could establish a blockade. Behind them, Felucia's purple surface receded into the void. Ahead, the galaxy burned with the fires of a purge that would become legend. 3 years into the Empire's reign, Logan had become a ghost story. Stormtroopers whispered about him in garrison mess halls. Imperial officers reviewed blurry security footage of a figure with metal claws tearing through detention blocks. Inquisitors reported impossible encounters, a man who couldn't be sensed through the Force, who walked away from injuries that should have been fatal, who freed prisoners and vanished before reinforcements arrived. They called him the Claw of the Rebellion, though Logan didn't see himself as part of any organized resistance. He worked alone, mostly, hit Imperial facilities, liberated slave camps, sabotaged weapons shipments. The work that needed doing but was too dirty for the nascent Rebel Alliance's public image. Tonight's target was a black site prison on Nur, the same ocean moon that housed the Inquisitorius headquarters. Fortress Inquisitorius loomed in the distance, its obsidian spires rising from the endless sea like a monument to darkness. But Logan wasn't here for the fortress. He was here for the prison buried 300 meters beneath the waves, a facility that didn't officially exist, where the Empire kept prisoners who were never meant to see daylight again. The submersible craft he'd stolen from an Imperial depot barely functioned, its engines sputtering as he descended through dark water. No lights. Navigation by instrument only. One wrong move and he'd be crushed by pressure or torn apart by the aquatic predators that infested these depths. The prison's exterior airlocks were guarded by aquatic assault troopers, specialized stormtroopers with rebreather gear and underwater weapons. Logan's approach was silent, using the natural current to drift close before striking. His claws punched through reinforced helmets and respirator seals. The troopers died without firing a shot, sinking into the depths. Inside, the facility was brutally efficient. Narrow corridors, automated defenses, camera coverage everywhere. Logan moved through it like he'd been born in places like this, probably because he had. Weapon X had taught him to navigate military installations, to recognize weak points, to exploit security gaps. The prisoners were kept in individual cells, suspended in containment fields that suppressed force abilities. Logan found what he was looking for in Cell Block 7, a Jedi named Siri Junda, arrested 3 months ago for harboring Force-sensitive children. He cut through the cell's security panel with surgical precision, and the containment field flickered out. Siri collapsed to her knees, gasping, her connection to the Force flooding back. "Easy," Logan said, helping her up. "I'm with the... well, I'm here to get you out." Siri studied him with haunted eyes. She was older than Ahsoka, maybe in her 40s, with scars that spoke of Inquisitor interrogation. "You're him, the one who exists outside the Force. Don't believe everything you hear." Logan handed her a blaster. "Can you walk?" "Can I?" Siri laughed bitterly. "I survived 3 months of Trilla's tender mercies. Walking is the least of my concerns." Alarms began blaring. Red emergency lights bathed the corridor in bloody illumination. "They know you're here," Siri said. "We need to..." The wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped a figure clad in black armor, breathing with mechanical rhythm. His presence was a void of cold, crushing darkness that made even Logan's Force-null existence feel like a candle in a hurricane. A crimson lightsaber ignited, bathing the corridor in hellish light. Darth Vader had arrived. "Logan," Vader's vocabulator gave his voice an inhuman quality. "We meet again." Logan's claws extended. "Anakin, that name no longer has meaning." Vader advanced slowly, deliberately. Behind him, stormtroopers flooded the corridor, but the Dark Lord raised a hand, halting them. "This one is mine." Siri grabbed Logan's arm. "You can't fight him. He's..." "I know what he is." Logan had heard the stories. Vader, the Emperor's Fist, the Jedi Killer, the man who'd once been Ahsoka's master, who'd led clone troops alongside Logan during the war. "Get to the submersible, Dock 7. I'll buy you time." "You'll die." "I've died before. Never sticks." Logan shoved her toward the escape route. "Go." Vader didn't wait for Siri to flee. His lightsaber came down in a brutal overhead strike that Logan barely deflected with crossed claws. The impact sent him sliding backward, boots scoring the metal floor. Vader pressed the advantage with methodical precision, high strike, low sweep, thrust, each movement economical and devastating. Logan had fought Vader once before, years ago on Mustafar. That fight had been interrupted by orbital bombardment. This time, there would be no interruptions. He ducked under a horizontal slash and drove his claws toward Vader's chest. The Dark Lord caught his wrist with the Force, holding him in place. Logan felt invisible pressure crushing down on his bones, not enough to break adamantium, but enough to trap him. Vader's lightsaber moved toward Logan's neck. Logan did the only thing he could. He drove his other set of claws through his own trapped arm, severing muscle and tendon, and dropped out of Vader's Force grip. His healing factor immediately began repairing the damage as he rolled away, but the move had bought him precious seconds. Resourceful, Vader acknowledged, but futile. The Dark Lord unleashed a Force push that sent Logan crashing through 2 walls and into a storage chamber. He hit hard enough to crater the durasteel adamantium skeleton, keeping him alive when the impact should have turned his organs to pulp. Logan pulled himself from the wall, coughing blood. His healing factor was working, but Vader's assault was relentless. The Dark Lord followed through the breach, cape billowing, an avatar of mechanical malice. "The Emperor wants you alive," Vader said. "He believes your immunity to the Force makes you valuable." I disagree. Feelings mutual. Logan charged, abandoning defense entirely. Their fight devolved into something primal and brutal. Vader used the Force to hurl debris, storage crates, ceiling panels, broken droids, while Logan weaved through the projectiles with animal grace. When they met in close combat, it was a contest of unstoppable force versus immovable object. Logan's claws carved through Vader's chest plate, exposing the life support systems beneath. Vader's lightsaber burned through Logan's shoulder, cauterizing flesh down to bone. Both warriors sustained damage that would kill ordinary beings. Neither stopped fighting. "You cannot win," Vader said. His breathing labored from damaged systems. "You have no purpose in this galaxy, no destiny. You are an anomaly that will be corrected." "Maybe." Logan grabbed Vader's lightsaber arm, ignoring the searing pain as his hand burned. "But I'm taking you with me." He drove both sets of claws toward Vader's helmet. The Dark Lord released a Force scream, raw, agonized power that shattered every window in the facility and sent pressure waves through the water outside. Logan was thrown backward with bone-crushing force. When he recovered, Vader was gone. Emergency bulkheads had sealed, water flooding in from breached sections. The prison was compromised, sinking. Logan ran, his healing factor repairing combat damage as he moved. He found the submersible bay, found Ciri already inside a functioning craft. "You're insane!" she shouted as he climbed aboard. "Yeah, I get that a lot." Logan sealed the hatch as water roared through the facility. Drive. The rebel base on Dantooine was little more than ruins and prefabricated structures hidden among ancient Jedi temples. It was here that Logan finally came face to face with the growing rebellion's leadership, Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and a dozen other senators and military commanders who'd bet everything on a cause that seemed increasingly hopeless, and it was here that Darth Vader came to end them. The attack came at dawn. Imperial Star Destroyers dropped out of hyperspace, disgorging TIE fighters and dropships. Ground forces established a perimeter within minutes. A TATS advancing through the grasslands, stormtrooper legions supported by artillery. It was overwhelming force designed to crush the rebellion's leadership in a single decisive strike. "We need to evacuate," Bail Organa said, his voice tight with controlled panic. "If the Empire captures this facility—" "They won't have to," Logan interrupted, watching the tactical display. "This isn't about capturing, this is about killing. Vader's here. I can smell the ozone from his suit's respirator." Mon Mothma's composed facade cracked slightly. "You've fought him before. Can you stall him? Maybe? Kill him?" Logan's laugh was harsh. "Lady, I've put my claws through his chest twice. He keeps getting back up, but I can buy you time to get your people out." "We won't abandon you," Ciri said. She'd stayed with the rebellion after Logan rescued her, training the few Force sensitives who'd survived the purge. "We stand together. Noble, stupid, but noble." Logan checked his claws, adamantium gleaming, freshly sharpened. "Fine, Ciri. You coordinate the evacuation, get the transports loaded. Everyone else who can fight, you're with me." The rebel defense was desperate and chaotic. Logan led a mixed force of soldiers, refugees, and idealists against professional Imperial troops who'd been crushing resistance movements for 3 years. They held the perimeter for 20 minutes, 20 brutal minutes of blaster fire, explosions, and bodies falling on both sides. Then Vader arrived. He walked through the battlefield like death incarnate, crimson lightsaber deflecting blaster bolts with casual precision. Rebel soldiers who tried to stand against him were either cut down or crushed by the Force. AT-ATs provided covering fire, but Vader needed no support. He was a one-man army, and his target was obvious: the command center. Logan intercepted him in the ruins of an ancient Jedi meditation chamber. Crumbling stone pillars surrounded them, inscribed with high galactic text that neither warrior could read. Dust motes, hung in shafts of sunlight that filtered through the shattered roof. "You are persistent," Vader said, his vocabulary giving the words a mechanical edge. "But persistence without purpose is merely stubbornness." "Thanks for the philosophy lesson." Logan's claws extended. "How about we skip to the part where I carve up your armor again?" They clashed with the violence of colliding stars. Vader had learned from their previous encounters. He used the Force not to restrain Logan directly, that had proven ineffective, but to manipulate the environment. Stone pillars collapsed, trying to crush Logan beneath tons of rubble. The floor beneath his feet suddenly tilted, throwing off his balance. Debris became projectiles, forcing Logan to dodge rather than attack. But Logan had learned too. He used his healing factor aggressively, taking hits that would kill anyone else to create openings. When a thrown stone shattered his ribs, he lunged through the pain and drove his claws into Vader's shoulder joint. When Vader's lightsaber burned through his thigh, he used the momentum to spin inside the Dark Lord's guard and rake his claws across Vader's chest plate again. They were both damaged, both bleeding, Vader's life support fluids leaking, Logan's body a patchwork of burned and healing flesh. "You cannot save them," Vader said between labored breaths. "The rebellion is doomed. Join the Empire. Serve the Emperor. Your abilities would be wasted on a fascist regime," Logan interrupted. "I've seen empires rise and fall, Vader. Yours isn't special." He feinted left, then drove both sets of claws toward Vader's helmet with all his strength. The Dark Lord caught one set with the Force, but the other connected, adamantium scraping against durasteel with a shriek that set teeth on edge. Vader's helmet cracked, not destroyed but damaged, a visible fracture across the left side, exposing damaged circuits and a glimpse of scarred flesh beneath. The Dark Lord's breathing became even more labored, his damaged mask struggling to regulate his compromised respiratory system. For the first time, Logan saw something that might have been fear in Vader's posture. The Dark Lord released a Force scream, raw, uncontrolled power born of pain and rage. The meditation chamber exploded outward, ancient stone vaporizing under the psychic assault. Logan was thrown 100 meters, crashing through a rebel transport and embedding himself in the grassland beyond. His healing factor went into overdrive, repairing shattered bones, ruptured organs, traumatic brain injury. It took 30 seconds before he could breathe again, 45 before he could stand. By then, Vader was limping toward the command center, one hand clutching his damaged chest plate, his breathing a wet, struggling sound. The Dark Lord was wounded, possibly critically, but still moving forward with mechanical determination. Logan pulled himself from the crater and charged again. This time, he wasn't trying to kill Vader. He was trying to stop him, to hold him in place long enough for the rebels to evacuate. He tackled the Dark Lord, adamantium skeleton, allowing him to bear the weight of Vader's armor. They crashed through a prefab wall, rolling together in a tangle of claws and lightsaber. Vader tried to force choke him. Logan drove a claw through Vader's forearm, disrupting the gesture. The Dark Lord brought his lightsaber down in a desperate overhead strike. Logan caught the blade between crossed claws, holding it inches from his face, feeling his own flesh burn from the proximity to plasma. "Why?" Vader demanded, his damaged mask making the word almost incomprehensible. "Why do you fight? You have no stake in this galaxy's fate. You could leave, find a way home. Yet you stay. Why?" Logan thought of Ahsoka, who'd helped him control his rage, of Siri, who'd trusted him despite having every reason not to, of the refugees he'd pulled from Imperial prisons, the children he'd saved from Inquisitors, the people who'd shown him that even in a galaxy far from home, there were things worth protecting. "Because someone has to," he said simply. An explosion rocked the facility, the last rebel transport launching, engines screaming as it fought for orbit. Through the smoke and chaos, Logan saw it escape atmosphere, saw TIE fighters pursue, but fail to intercept. They'd made it. The leadership was safe. Logan released Vader and rolled away, gaining distance. The Dark Lord tried to pursue, but his damaged systems finally failed. He collapsed to one knee, breathing in wet, gasping sounds. "This isn't over," Vader managed. "It never is." Logan backed toward where he'd hidden his own escape craft, a battered Z-95 headhunter. "See you around, Anakin." He was gone before reinforcements arrived. The message reached Logan on Lothal 6 months after Dantooine. He was helping a local cell smuggle supplies when his encrypted comm crackled to life with Siri's voice, tight with urgency. "Logan, we've got a problem, a big one." He found a private corner in the safe house away from the Lothal rebels. "How big?" "The Empire's created something, an Inquisitor unlike any we've encountered. He's already killed 3 of our operatives and a former Jedi Master. The survivors all report the same thing: claws, healing factor, fighting style eerily similar to yours." Logan's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. My DNA doesn't work like that. The adamantium bonding process requires—" "They didn't use adamantium. They used something else. Cortosis-laced durasteel, bonded to a clone body, Sith alchemy to accelerate healing, and the Force to tie it all together." Siri's hologram flickered. "Logan, they've created a dark mirror of you, and Sidious has sent him to hunt the rebellion's most dangerous assets. Meaning me. Meaning all of us. But you're at the top of the list." The Adamantine Inquisitor, as Imperial Intelligence designated him, made his presence known 2 weeks later. Logan was extracting a group of Force-sensitive children from an Imperial Academy on Korrilag when the attack came. He moved through the academy with practiced efficiency, neutralizing guards with precise strikes, avoiding lethal force when possible. The children, 7 of them, aged 6 to 12, followed in terrified silence. They'd been taken from their families, conditioned to serve the Empire. Logan was taking them somewhere safe, somewhere they could choose their own paths. He was loading them into his ship when he felt it. Wrongness in the air, a disturbance that even his Force-null existence could perceive. The smell of ozone and something chemical. The sound of claws extending. The Inquisitor dropped from the Academy's roof, landing in a crouch 20 meters away. He was tall, wrapped in black robes with red Inquisitor markings. His face was hidden behind a featureless mask, but his hands were visible, pale, scarred, tipped with metallic claws that gleamed in the moonlight. Not adamantium, but something darker, something that seemed to drink in light. "Logan." The voice was synthesized, cold. "The Emperor sends his regards." "Let the kids go," Logan said, positioning himself between the Inquisitor and the ship. "This is between us. Everything is between us." The Inquisitor's claws extended fully, 4 on each hand, longer than Logan's 3. "I am what you could have been, what you should have been. Perfection, while you are merely a prototype." He attacked with blinding speed. The Inquisitor fought like Logan, but worse. All of Logan's feral aggression combined with Jedi acrobatics and Sith brutality. His Cortosis claws could short-circuit lightsabers on contact, making him the perfect anti-Jedi weapon. His healing factor, while not as robust as Logan's, was augmented by the Force, allowing him to draw on dark side energy to accelerate regeneration. Logan barely blocked the opening strike, adamantium screeching against Cortosis durasteel. The Inquisitor spun, his claws a whirlwind, each movement precise and calculated. Logan gave ground, protecting the ship and the children inside. "You're not me," Logan growled. "You're something the Empire built, a slave." "I am a weapon, as are you." The Inquisitor's mask tilted. "The difference? I have accepted what I am. You still pretend to be human." The fight escalated in brutality. They crashed through walls, tore through equipment, left trails of their own blood across the Academy grounds. The Inquisitor used the Force to enhance his strikes, Force speed, Force strength, dark side rage that pushed his body beyond normal limits. But Logan had something the Inquisitor didn't: experience. A century of combat, battles against enemies the Empire couldn't imagine, and something else: the memory of every person he'd failed to save, every child who'd looked at him with hope, every reason he kept fighting in this galaxy that wasn't his own. When the Inquisitor overextended on a strike, Logan was there. His claws punched through the Inquisitor's chest, finding the biological heart beneath cortosis and durasteel. The Inquisitor's healing factor kicked in immediately, Force energy flooding the wound. Logan didn't give it time to work. He crossed his claws and pulled, tearing through the Inquisitor's torso with savage efficiency. The dark mirror fell, his mask cracking to reveal a young face, maybe 20 standard years old, covered in surgical scars and cybernetic ports. A clone, probably. Someone who'd never had a choice, who'd been built to be a weapon from the moment of creation. "I'm sorry," Logan said quietly, kneeling beside the dying Inquisitor. "You deserved better than this." The Inquisitor's eyes, yellow from dark-side corruption, focused on Logan's face. "We are the same." "No, kid, we're not. I chose this. You never got that chance." The light faded from the Inquisitor's eyes. His healing factor, dependent on Force energy, couldn't repair catastrophic damage without consciousness to direct it. He died there, on foreign soil, a weapon discarded by the Empire he'd been built to serve. Logan carried the body to his ship, ignoring the children's frightened questions. He'd give the Inquisitor a proper burial later, somewhere far from Imperial space. It was the least he could do. As he lifted off, evading the TIE fighters scrambling to intercept, Logan's calm crackled again. Ciri's voice, but also others: Ahsoka, Bail Organa, even some of the Lothal rebels he'd worked with. "Logan, we're receiving reports from across the Outer Rim. Your fight with the Inquisitor was broadcast on Imperial frequencies. Every garrison, every outpost saw what you did." Ciri paused. "The Empire wanted to send a message by creating him, but you just sent one back. The rebellion is spreading word. The Claw defeated the Emperor's dark creation. Hope is spreading." Logan stared at the stars streaking past his viewport. Hope. He'd never thought of himself as a symbol, never wanted to be anything more than a soldier doing the work that needed doing. But in this galaxy, at this moment, maybe that was enough. Behind him, one of the children, a Twi'lek girl named Hera, spoke softly. "Are we going to be safe now?" Logan thought about Vader, still hunting, about Sidious, still scheming, about the Empire that controlled most of the known galaxy, about the long, brutal fight ahead. "Yeah, kid," he lied, because sometimes hope mattered more than truth. "You're going to be safe." His ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its precious cargo toward the unknown regions where the rebellion was building something new. Something that might, one day, have a chance against the darkness. The galaxy would remember Logan, not as a hero from legend, not as a Jedi or Sith, but as something else entirely. A warrior who existed outside destiny, who fought not because prophecy demanded it, but because someone had to. The Claw of the rebellion became more than a man. He became a symbol that even the Force could not predict or control. In the years that followed, Logan continued his work in the shadows. He never found a way home. The dimensional rift that brought him to this galaxy remained a mystery even the most learned scholars couldn't solve. But he stopped looking. Somewhere between Dathomir and Dantooine, between Order 66 and the Inquisitor's death, this galaxy far, far away had become something he never expected. It had become worth fighting for. Ahsoka would later say that Logan taught the rebellion something the Jedi had forgotten. that heroism wasn't about destiny or midi-chlorians or ancient prophecies. It was about choice, about standing up when you had every reason to walk away, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, even when the cost was everything. Darth Vader bore the scars of their battles for the rest of his life, a constant reminder that the Emperor's control had limits, that some things existed beyond the Sith's understanding. When Vader finally turned against Sidious years later, saving his son Luke from the Emperor's lightning, perhaps he remembered the warrior who'd shown him that redemption was possible even for those who'd fallen farthest. And Emperor Palpatine, in his fortress on Biss, kept a single file marked with highest security clearance. Subject: Logan. Status: uncontained. Threat level: catastrophic. He never stopped trying to capture, control, or kill the man who defied the Force itself. He never succeeded. The rebellion grew stronger, fueled by whispered stories of the unkillable warrior who bled for their cause. And on countless worlds, in hidden bases and safe houses, children who'd been rescued from Imperial facilities would ask the same question: will the Claw come if we're in danger? And the answer, always, was yes. Logan had crossed dimensions, crashed into a galaxy at war, and somehow found what he'd been searching for his entire century-long life. Not a home, but a purpose. Not acceptance, but a fight worth bleeding for. The Force might bind the galaxy together, might guide destinies and forge chosen ones. But sometimes the galaxy needed something the Force couldn't provide. It needed a man with adamantium claws and an indomitable will who would never stop fighting, never stop protecting, never stop proving that even in a universe governed by mystical energy and ancient prophecies, the simple choice to do what's right still mattered most. The rebellion would eventually become the New Republic. The Empire would fall. New threats would emerge. And through it all, in the darkest corners where hope seemed lost, the Claw would be there, an eternal guardian, a living reminder that some warriors fight not because they're destined to, but because they choose to. And in a galaxy far, far away, that made all the difference. May the Force be with you. More stories await.